Dr. William Ruto has said about the support of the finance bill by members of parliament, and also what the DP, that is Gachagua, has also spoken about it. But in between there is a section of members of parliament that are allied to the Kenya Kwanza government who are saying that we have to speak the voice of the people. Case in point, you're then going to remember Parliament Gathoni Mushomba. Read that story extensively on page 6 of the Standard. Now, there's another headline here that you gotta look at. Sifting fact from fiction on eucalyptus tree. Now, pupils of Solidarity Primary School in Ruai marched during the World Environment Day that was celebrated across the country yesterday. All right, read that story again on pages 4 and 5. Hopefully, you did participate by planting a tree, or if not so, then or contributing to an initiative that is essentially then geared towards supporting the environment. Hopefully, we're saying hopefully, all right? Because then you gotta be part and parcel of conversations around climate change and protecting the environment. On page 11, you're going to read on big GMO debate on why groups want court orders now, and that is on pages 11, and how now, indeed, if you are then a follower of football, then you will know that, indeed, legend, if you want to say that, Ibrahimovic is already called it quits when it comes to football. The biggest quote, again, from yesterday, if indeed you did listen to him, will say, well, you can boo, but at least you have a chance to finally see me step out. Now, again, on pages 14 and 15, you're going to look into a peek into budgets drawn by governors, and then on page 3, you're going to see how officials now are railing at NGOs over tax evasion. All right? If you're going to look into that story, then you're going to see that indeed now it is going to be mandatory for majority of NGOs in the country then to declare their sources of finance. And this is around conversations on how majority of them have been accused of evading tax in the country as well. Good. All right, that's exactly what they have covered on the Standard. Let's look at exactly what is on the Daily Nation this morning. And indeed, it's not a very good headline in as regards what Kenyans are talking about this morning in the cost of living. They're talking about how unga, sugar prices to go up again. I mean, they've been going up, and if you've been reading headlines around sugar, it's been upwards of 220 shillings a kg, depending on where you're getting it from. So you wonder how far high it's going to go up by again. All right. Now, this is the thing. Central Bank of Kenya's agricultural sector survey released on Friday shows the prices of major food commodities will remain high again in June. All right. Now, Kenya now faces a major maize crisis. Only 2 million out of the expected 10 million bags of duty-free grain have been imported in 4 months, meaning that indeed we are looking at a shortfall as we enter into this month. Now, the National Cereals and Produce Board says that at least 15 billion is needed to relaunch strategic food reserve, and currently more than 5.4 million Kenyans are faced with starvation and in urgent need of relief supplies. So not so good. Indeed, the kicker says it's hard times ahead, up for higher prices of maize flour, sugar, bread, eggs, rice, cooking oil, and other food items this month. Now, farmers and traders have warned, citing the high input of fuel costs, reduced local production and high import costs. And this is before the finance bill is passed, further pushing prices out of reach for many Kenyans. Now, this is quite a headline this morning that you're waking up to in as regards those food prices, and you can read into that story on page 7 of the Daily Nation. All right, on pages 10, there's a story here about how Ruto has urged regional leaders to cancel climate meetings. Ruto rattles world at City Summit. You're going to read that story again on page 10. Good. That's exactly what they have covered this morning in terms of your bigger headlines on the Daily Nation. For now, we take a tiny breather. Once we come back, I'll be taking you straight to the newsroom while we tell you what it is that you're waking up to this morning in terms of your biggest news headlines. right, welcome back. Now, 5 people have been confirmed dead in an accident that involved 2 trailers along the Eldoret-Webuye Highway near Kaburengu Market. Now, the trailers which caused the accident in hours difference are said to have been moving at a high speed before hitting pedestrians, with one of them hitting a house and killing 2 occupants. Samia Dika opens the news this morning.
A somber mood engulfed residents of Kaburengu along the Eldoret-Webuye Highway after 4 were killed in an accident involving 2 trailers. According to eyewitness, the first trailer lost control while avoiding to hit a parked probox before hitting a bodaboda rider and the probox driver.
Alikuwa anatoka upande ya Kimilili kupitungu kwa pikipiki. Ajali imefanyika mwendo wa saa 10 na probox on the spot.
An hour later, a second trailer heading to Webuye from Eldoret at high speed lost control and hit a woman witnessing the first accident before falling on a nearby house with the 2 occupants.
I was called to come and respond to the first accident. Just arriving at the scene, the next accident happened. It was going to be the worst accident so far. But we have tried to rescue and also evacuate the 4 dead bodies and also try to give first aid to the injured.
Condoling with the bereaved families, Kakamega Deputy Governor Ayub Savula has called on the national government to redesign the road so as to reduce the historic accidents along the highway.
What I'm appealing to the national government through Kenya National Highway Authority is to redesign this road all the way from Kipkaren up to Mabanga in Bungoma and install speed bumps at an interval of maybe 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers to reduce the speed, because these are hilly areas. So they are prone to accident because we don't have any speed bumps around here. And you remember last year in September we lost 10 people here at Kaburengu.
Lugari Member of Parliament Nabii Nabwera has also called on Kakamega County Government to consider setting markets along the road so as to reduce the speed that vehicles move at.
Nataka kupitisha bunge ithirutishe serikali ya county ijenge soko hapa Kaburengu na ijenge soko Mhonji, mahali ambapo watu wanafanya biashara kwa barabara. Ni jukumu la serikali ya county kujenga masoko, na gavana aliyeondoka Mheshimiwa Oparanya alikuwa maagiza watu wa Kaburengu soko na kaagiza watu wa Mhonje soko. Tungependa hiyo itekelezwe mara moja.
The bodies of the deceased are currently preserved at the Webuye Hospital mortuary. Samedika, Lookuptv.
Now, the issue of controlling a plastic waste has been a recurrent affair all over the world, with its effects causing various diseases as a result of the waste, but not to one farmer, Douglas Situma from Bungoma Plastic Waste. To him, this is a benefit, as it is the raw material he uses to raise chicks to imitate his inventory to prevent environmental pollution through plastic waste. Audrey Cherotich reports.
Since the 1970s, the rate of increase in the production of plastic materials has increased significantly beyond any other material. In the event this trend continues, the international production of plastics is expected to hit 1,100 tons by the year 2050, and this is according to the United Nations Environmental Programme.
Where we have to start with in our household. We have to segregate this waste into different streams.
Environmental pollution by way of plastic waste has been a persistent thorn in the flesh of the health of many Kenyans. This same issue has caused Lumoru area residents in Bungoma County to caution those who dispose waste just next to their homesteads.
Watoto wanakaa hapo ndani, ukienda mtoto amekaa stara, anakula machungwa, anatoanisha tu na hizo mikono, anakula ndizi, wanapata pengine kuna mikate na cakes zenye zime-expire ziko hapo. Hizi makwencha zime-expire vile wanakuja kumwaga hapo. Unapata watoto kusherekea wengine huwezi sema. Alafu wakitoka hapo hivyo, hata wamebebana makuku zenye zimekufa, wanaenda nazo nyumbani, wanaenda atuwapike wakule.
Hapa awali tulikuwa na vifo za kuku, lakini mifugo kama ng'ombe asikuwa vile tuna experience saizi. Ngalao silikuweko na tunajua siko. lakini kuku saisi zinaendelea tu kuathiriwa.
Despite the residents' challenges, Bungoma County Administration, on their part, explained that measures have already been taken to address the issue and that a perimeter wall has been erected to bar children and livestock from accessing the dump site area.
Waste management budget haitoshi. Saa hizi budget ni 20 million per month kwa markets 49. Na hizo markets 49 ziko kama nusu zenye markets tunataka tuwe tuna clean.
The CEC for Environment proposes to implement a program that will see waste materials sorted to establish whatever materials can be reused, like plastics. Douglas Situma, a poultry farmer who rears chicks, is more than delighted at the sight of plastics because this is the raw material he uses to create shelters for his young chicks.
Kazi yetu tunazunguka tukisanya hizi plastics ambazo ni waste products zinatupwa huko town, ikisanywa na machokora, sisi tunachukua, tunakuja tunafanya conversion kutengeneza hizi visimba.
He narrates just how much he profits from recycling plastics which are cheaper to obtain.
In terms of cost, hii ambayo tunatengeneza, it's far much cheaper as compared to the other method ya kutumia stima. Stima is expensive nowadays when you analyze. Kitambo pia tulikuwa tunatumia makaa kwa ile open brooding, ambapo kulea kuku 100 kwa mwezi mmoja ungetumia kunia kama 2 ya makaa. Tunapotengeneza moja ikiwa tayari huwa tunauza shilingi 5,500 na so far tumepata kuuza site ya visimba 300.
He would like the government to intervene and put out measures to control the use of plastics. Audrey Cherotich, Lookuptv.
Now, the World Environment Day is celebrated on the 5th of June each year. In many countries, different celebrations are held to create environmental protection awareness. Henriette Kiage, European Union Ambassador to Kenya, has congratulated Kenya for the steps it has taken towards environmental protection. Audrey Cherotich attended the celebrations and returns again with the following report.
Actions speak louder than words. So they say.
World Environment Day is celebrated every 5th of June throughout the world, and here in the Wangari Maathai Hall, a similar festival has been organized by the European Union. This year's theme is to beat plastic pollution. Plastic waste has been a persistent issue in the world over, and there is need, as a country, to put more effort in ensuring that this issue is eliminated.
So we are here today to mark the World Environment Day 2023 and the start of the EU's Climate Diplomacy Week.
Here, these students are educated about how they can recycle plastic for alternative use. According to Ambassador Henriette, the European Union is ready to continue working with the county governments and as well as the central government as she urges Kenyans to embrace the blue economy.
The EU has a special program called Go Blue, where we are supporting the development of the blue economy. So that means jobs like fishing or tourism and other jobs that are both on land and on the...
The European Union heartily congratulates Kenya for the steps it has taken so far, saying that the EU supports Kenya's transition into a green economy.
As the world marks the World Environmental Day, the theme this year is dubbed #Beat Plastic Pollution. Audrey Cherotich, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
President William Ruto has pushed for his affordable housing agenda, saying the progress in affirming the fundamental right to decent housing is critical to the achievement of sustainable urbanization. The president was speaking as he officiated the opening of the UN Habitat Second Assembly in Kigoli, Nairobi.
housing levy in the proposed finance bill shifting into high gear, President William Ruto has stepped up his push for the affordable housing project. Speaking today during the opening of the UN Habitat Assembly in Kigoli, the head of state pointed out that this will address the challenges of human settlement.
Our progress in affirming the fundamental right to decent housing is critical to the achievement of sustainable urbanization in terms of SDG number 11. Recognizing this imperative and realizing that more than half of Kenya's population will live in urban areas by 2050, we have integrated universal housing as a critical pillar of the national bottom-up economic transformation agenda. Into the housing program, we have further mainstreamed sustainable urban practices of green building, green spaces, adoption of low-carbon energy use, including low-carbon transport solutions, as well as urban agriculture and effective waste management.
Ruto had previously detailed his plan to deliver 200,000 housing units annually, with funding drawn from housing levy in the proposed 2023 finance bill, which has sparked massive outrage from netizens. As the nation braces for a showdown in parliament, the stage is set for a riveting clash of opinions and ideologies. The fate of the housing levy and its implications on the lives of Kenyans hang in the balance, awaiting a decisive resolution in the hallowed halls of parliament. David Alex, Lookuptv.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has warned governors against criticizing the Finance Bill 2023. Gachagua said the bill was meant to generate revenue that will be allocated to the counties for development projects. Wamae with more.
As the push and pull on revenue allocation between the national government and counties continue, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has called on governors to support the Finance Bill 2023, saying it will help in collecting revenue that will be used to finance counties.
That all the current expenditure will be made from our own revenue. That is why we have certain measures to collect more revenue, to avoid borrowing, because it is not sustainable. The country is having a 10 trillion debt that is not sustainable, and we cannot borrow anymore, save for development. As we have said repeatedly, if you find yourself in a hole, you stop digging and figure out how to get out. And therefore, we shall not borrow money for current expenditure. We shall raise money from our own revenues, and I'm sure the governors have exercised understanding. It is in that spirit that I've also asked them to consider and to appreciate that they are in the same boat with the national government in matters revenue collection.
Speaking on Monday after the 20th Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council in Karen, Nairobi, the second in command added that the county bosses should be on the same side as the national government on revenue collection.
That if we don't collect enough revenue, there will be no money available to the county governments. So we have requested them, even as others criticize measures that have been taken in the finance bill, the governors should be cautious of joining the choir, because if we don't collect enough revenue, they are the ones who will be having a problem, because there will be no money for disbursement.
Gachagua said the state was not going to borrow money for expenditure.
And we still have an outstanding 94 billion that is owed to the county for the months of April, May and June. We have explained to the governors the strain that the National Treasury is undergoing, and they have understood, and after lengthy negotiations we have agreed that the National Treasury will disburse by the end of this week monies owed to the counties for the month of April. We have further agreed that by 19th of June the money owed to the counties for the month of May will be disbursed. The National Treasury has given a commitment with no guarantees that we shall do whatever is possible to try to raise the money for June before the end of the financial year. But if that is not possible, the counties have been requested to bear with us.
Gachagua assured the governors that the National Treasury will allocate revenue owed to counties by the end of the week. Counties and the Treasury have been at loggerheads on delayed revenue allocation as members of the County Assembly threaten to close counties. The Treasury now owes counties revenue for the month of April and May. Brian Wamae, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Majority Whip Silvana Sasoro has said they have marshalled enough members of parliament from both the Azimio and the Kenya Kwanza political divide to support the Finance Bill 2023. And as Shada Kareria now reports, the High Court sitting in Nairobi has certified as urgent a petition filed by Busia Senator Okia Omtata seeking to quash the controversial Finance Bill 2023 in its entirety.
A motion with only few hours left before the parliament resumes its sessions on Tuesday, where MPs are expected to debate on the controversial bill. Members of parliament allied to the government are having sleepless nights as they are rushing against time to convince as many MPs as possible to back the bill in order to gather sizable votes comes Thursday. While addressing a press conference at the Parliament buildings, Majority Whip Silvana Sasoro stated that he has marshaled enough MPs to support the 2023 Finance Bill in Parliament.
I had a meeting with about 100 members from the majority side. In phases, I met 40, another 40, and then 20. And tomorrow I'm also meeting about 50 members of Parliament from the majority side. And they are convinced that the bill is the right thing to do for this country, and they'll support it. So already I'm starting with a number of about 150. You know, because winning in the National Assembly is about strategy. What numbers do you have?
Osoro stated that he has also secured assurance from some Azimio leaders who support the bill.
Is the leakage in the economy. It doesn't really make sense.
Right, with that story then, we mark the end of Look Up morning news this morning. We take a tiny breather. Once we come back, by the way, some of those stories are the ones that we have given a big highlight this morning in terms of our big conversation. Because all we're hearing now, and I think if you do hear what Gachagua has said, the president has said this weekend, all the way to the official day, but the National House is going to start their official business today after their break. It is nobody is supposed to let this bill fail if you are within the government. And that story that we just run there by the majority whip as well, saying, well, it's already met with a couple, so it's going to start with 150. So he doesn't see why this particular bill then is going to fail. Now, even as the petition filed by Okia Omtata already sits at the High Court, it is going to be eyes on the National House this week. And by the way, Thursday, that's when they're going to really weigh in on this particular bill, which is supposed to inform the budget document, the first one, if you say, for one President Dr. William Ruto. This is the one that is supposed to inform his delivery to the country. If it fails, then indeed there are questions then on how he's supposed to run his government. But it goes through, there are questions whether indeed then the members of Parliament and House would have spoken the voice of the people. So which is which? This morning, we're calling it political ultimatums. The best way to go? I'll be introducing the guests who are joining us shortly. For now, we take a tiny breather. We come back with a big conversation.
In a world where every voice matters, where women and children need our unwavering support, Muthingi TV's Muthoni Nyarari stands out. And it's for this reason that she has been nominated for the AfriGlow Women Choice Awards 2023 as the presenter of the year. Your voice matters. Your support counts. To vote for Modoni Nyararu, dial *483 *733 *551212#. Together, let's amplify our voices and bring attention to the issues that matters the most.
Mizizi Africa Homes is Kenya's fastest growing property development company. We offer home and investment solutions that are cost-effective and of the highest quality. If you are an aspiring homeowner, look no further than Mizizi Africa Homes for the best competitive rates in town. Introducing our new project at Bustani ya Mizizi in Malindi, a prime property with close proximity to Malindi Town, Sandy Beach, international hotels and airport, private, public schools and hospitals, commercial area and police stations, fertile land, well drained with a perimeter fence all round, sufficient borehole and county water, electricity and man-made water harvesting dams for farming and fishing. Retire mapema bila pressure and grab yours today. An 8th acre at only 99k with ready title deeds. For installment payment, deposit 50%, balance in 6 months installment. Financing option available. Bustani ya Mizizi in Malindi. Mapema ndio best. For more information, contact us on 020-790-2215 or WhatsApp us on 0742-112-215, www.miziziafricahomes.com and email info@miziziafricahomes.com. Our offices are at Westlands, Watamu Court, Room 3, opposite Sarit Center. Mizizi Africa Homes, together building a solid foundation.
Welcome back to the Morning Drift. My name is Simba Kiage. In case you are just joining us, this is Lookuptv. Now, for the next couple of minutes, by the way, we're going to table a conversation on exactly what we have seen in the country in as regards the Finance Bill 2023. So it is the politics around the Finance Bill 2023, and this is how I would like to introduce this particular conversation. Then, before introducing the guests who are going to join us shortly for this particular conversation, I'd like us to run a story, number one, on what Raila Odinga has exactly said about this particular bill, so that we introduce the politics from that. And this is our first story on our bulletin. Now, with the finance bill awaiting its tabling in the National Assembly for the second reading, as Azimio Umoja leader Raila Odinga has urged the opposition allied legislators to shoot down the bill. Odinga hinted at giving the way forward on what avenue the opposition will take come Thursday when the bill will be tabled in Parliament. Let's take a look at this story. Once we come back, then I will be introducing the guests who are with us in the studio so that we can table that conversation in the way that it deserves.
President Ruto's administration last week regarding the finance bill, with Odinga urging the president to scrap the bill. The Azimio Supremos today indicated resumption of the anti-government demonstration, with Thursday set for the declaration of the way forward.
We are going to tell Kenyans what to do. I've been asked wherever I go, tangaza maandamano, tamaza maandamano. We are putting them on notice. Tutatangaza. Tutatoa msimamo wetu kamili siku ya Alhamisi. Siku ya Alhamisi tutatoa taarifa yetu kamili. Tutaeleza Wakenya kinagaubaga msimamo wetu kwa nini sisi tunapinga hiyo mswada na ile hatua ambayo tunataka Wakenya wachukue.
While addressing the media at his Nairobi headquarters, Odinga hinted that all Azimio allied legislators instructed to shoot down the bill, which will be tabled for the second reading on Thursday.
Mswada ikiletwa kule kwa vitisho na kushurutisha bunge kupitisha hiyo mswada, lakini wabunge wetu wote tayari wameambiwa wapinge vikali hiyo mswada. Kama wewe ni mwanaazimio, pinga kabisa. Na wale wabunge ambao wataunga mkono hiyo mswada, nataka wale wapigaji kura wao waweke wao kwenye darubini ili wajue kwamba wao ni wasaliti wa wananchi wa Kenya.
The ODM party leader took a swipe at the government over what he termed as harassment of Maina Njenga and his supporters in the name of fighting the outlawed Mungiki gang.
Njama ya kujaribu kunyanyasa vijana wa mkoa wa Kati katika taifa letu. Tumeona njama ikifanywa kujaribu kufanya hata hao ni watu ni wahalifu, ati ni Mungiki na kadhalika. Wengine wanashikwa, kwa mfano Mheshimiwa Maina Njenga.
During the questioning of Maina Njenga at the DCI on the 25th of May this year and the subsequent court appearance in Nakuru, Maina's treatment laid bare the determination of the regime to weaponize state agencies to harass and intimidate Mount Kenya leaders.
The former Prime Minister also cautioned the national government over delayed disbursement of county funds.
You have condemned the delay by the national government to remit funds to the county government. This government is actually trying to kill devolution, because if they're saying that they inherited an empty copper, there is a deliberate effort to try to take over some of the functions which are being done by the county government. But also, everybody knows that corruption has shot up.
Ian Keitani, Lookuptv.
The story then. That story by Ian Keitani introduces what our conversation is going to be this morning. And you hear what Raila Amolo Odinga is saying, that all those members of parliament who are going to support this bill should be exposed by the Azimio la Umoja one side as being the ones for, in court, and I'm going to say exactly what he said, hao ndio wamewasaliti wa Kenya. But what is the conversation that is coming from the government side? Now, we're going to play again that story for DP Gachagua this morning, so you can actually get to listen to it. But the president this weekend, while drumming up support for the Finance Bill 2023, did really indicate that if you are within the government, you need to support this bill. And he said he's going to watch closely who among the Kenya Kwanza allied members of parliament are going to fight employment for the youth in this country. So this morning we're saying, what is this that we're seeing in terms of political ultimatums? All right, joining us online is going to join us shortly. We are joined by Edwin Kigoli, who's a political analyst and government strategist. Well, we're waiting for him to join us shortly. But in the studio, we do have Justina, Wamae. How are you doing?
Morning, Simba.
Good morning. Let's begin like this.
Yes.
Last time when we were here, I did ask you this question, sort of intimating into this conversation. This bill has gone through public participation. we would like to think that every other concerned Kenyan has looked at it, read it, and represented their views on it. Well, it's now moved from Kenyans. It's going to go back to the National House this week. But then my question is, if you listen to the language of the Kenya Kwanza leaders, even before the bill was tabled in the public domain, Justina, we hear them say, well, it has to go through. The government doesn't lose, you know? All right. Yesterday, again, if you look at the comments of one Senator, Kigoli, you will see exactly who is speaking for. He's speaking for the government. If you listen to one, President William Ruto, again, he's on the spot saying, well, I'm going to look keenly as the members of parliament are going to go through their business in the House and mark who among the Kenya Kwanza members of parliament is going to go against this bill. Essentially saying, who is that who is against government agenda, which is employment and provision of services to Kenyans, right? Just before we come back again, I want us to look at this story for Gachagua as well, and then come back and join those conversations, because indeed then it's going to inform what those two leaders are essentially speaking about. Let's take a look at it. Once we come back, Justina, Wamae and I are going to start that.
As the push and pull on revenue allocation between the national government and counties continue, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has called on governors to support the Finance Bill 2023, saying it will help in collecting revenue that will be used to finance counties.
That all the current expenditure will be met from our own revenue. That is why we have certain measures to collect more revenue, to avoid borrowing, because it is not sustainable. The country is having a 10 trillion debt that is not sustainable, and we cannot borrow anymore, save for development. As we have said repeatedly, if you find yourself in a hole, you stop digging and figure out how to get out. And therefore, we shall not borrow money for recurrent expenditure. We shall raise money from our own revenues. And I'm sure the governors have exercised understanding. It is in that spirit that I've also asked them to consider and to appreciate that they are in the same boat with the national government in matters revenue collection.
Speaking on Monday after the 20th Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council in Karen, Nairobi, the second in command added that the county bosses should be on the same side as the national government on revenue collection.
That if we don't collect enough revenue, there will be no money available to the county governments. So we have requested them, even as others criticize as measures that have been taken in the finance bill, the governors should be cautious of joining the choir, because if we don't collect enough revenue, they are the ones who will be having a problem, because there will be no money for disbursement.
Gachagua said the state was not going to borrow money for expenditure.
And we still have an outstanding 94 billion that is owed to the county for the months of April, May, and June. We have explained to the governors the strain that the National Treasury is undergoing, and they have understood, and after lengthy negotiations, we have agreed that the National Treasury will disburse by the end of this week monies owed to the counties for the month of April. We have further agreed that by 19th of June, the money owed to the counties for the month of May will be disbursed. The National Treasury has given a commitment with no guarantees that we shall do whatever is possible to try to raise the money for June before the end of the financial year. But if that is not possible, the counties have been requested to bear with us.
Gachagua assured the governors that the National Treasury will allocate revenue owed to counties by the end of the week. counties and the Treasury have been at loggerheads on delayed revenue allocation as members of the County Assembly threaten to close counties. The Treasury now owes counties revenue for the month of April and May. Brian Amwai, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
All right. Thank you very much for that particular one. Let's then get into that conversation. And Justin, this morning we called it political ultimatums. But the question that I want to ask, is it irresponsible for the president and the deputy president to make pronouncements on a process that is supposed to be constitutional? Do not interfere with a constitutional process. Now, all of a sudden, it looks as if all the members of parliament allied with Kenya Kwanza know very well that once we go to talk about this debate Thursday, the president is watching.
Actually, it's very, very irresponsible. But again, we need to understand where they're coming from. They spent money, and I mean the president and the deputy, during campaigns. Many MPs from UDA would say that they didn't have money for campaigns, but the president funded them in their campaigns. So for them, the president sees them as part of their tool, part of his tool to get the job done. So this is a time for them kurudisha mkono, because I gave you money, now I want to see you doing what I gave you the money for. So one, the independence of our MPs is gone. Because you see, the money was given so that Kenyans can see that the president was on the ground.
Yes.
Remember, the president would go for many harambes in Central. Now is the time you're paying back. So it is very irresponsible, but he's reaping what he invested. So it goes back to the citizen. If you want your leader to be independent-minded, if you want your leader to represent you without fear or bias from the party leader, then stop asking for money. Right now, we are saying that we'll be looking at the MPs who are going to vote for the finance bill. But do they have a choice? Simba, they don't have a choice. The MPs have to do what their master told them or is telling them. So as it is, I feel like the president and the deputy are still hung up to the Moi era, where Moi would say anything and people listen.
Yes.
They're forgetting this technology, this new information. There's a new generation of Kenyans who don't even care what you're telling them. So, but I'm afraid for the MPs, because they can't ask the question, if you watch us, what will you do? What will you do about it? What will you do about it? They can't ask. So they are not independent. And the MPs, I dare say, are our weakest link when it comes to democracy.
Yes.
But have we empowered them enough to give them the independence? No, we haven't, the citizens.
If you look at even how the members of parliament are talking about Justina, it's not just about the president and the deputy president. I mean, I've taken you back 2 weeks ago when this particular bill was drafted and then thrown back to public participation. Even then, there were key members within the Kenya Kwanza government who were saying, well, this one has to go through and the government doesn't lose. So it's not just a question of the president and the deputy president. Again, it goes a long way telling that this again has now become a battle between the opposition and the government.
Those people who are saying that the government never loses, of course, they're speaking for the president.
Yes.
But when you look at also Azimio, their role is to discredit government, that we know as opposition. But I feel they're taking advantage of the situation. They also had the housing levy. They had their own proposal on housing, but they're not speaking about it now. So probably the problem that Kenya Kwanza is facing now is what Azimio would have faced if they got into power. Yes. So I feel like these two, the major players, so to speak, in terms of numbers, Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, Kenyan is lost in between their battles. There's a battle of egos, and it goes to show that they don't care about even our economy. They don't even care about the plight of the ordinary Kenyan. Remember when Raila says that on Thursday they're going to give direction. This country is still in a panicky mood. The investors, smart money will always leave where there is no political stability. I dare say that in as much as Kenya Kwanza is sabotaging us economically with their taxes, with their levies, Azimio is sabotaging the country through political instability. So they need to realize that in as much as you're discrediting the other person, don't keep the environment, the business environment, in a way that investors will run away. So now the president is saying that housing is for purposes of creating employment. And then they go to tell us that they're waiting for the developers, investors from out there I'm assuming. But can they come to a country where it's seen that there'll be instability? No. No one wants to risk their money. No one wants to risk even their staff, the international staff who are coming here. So the two of them are a threat to our democracy.
Yes. Just before we even throw the ball to what the president and the deputy president have been talking about, can I take you back a little bit to how this process indeed started? Is it not okay for the opposition to come in and oppose this particular bill? It's within their duty to actually do that. Point out the areas where they think their supporters or wananchi have a voice on and push the government to actually perform on that, which is what they are expected to do as the opposition. So we're waiting for that communication from the Azimio la Umoja One leader, that is Raila Amolo Odinga, on exactly what we can do to have a voice in this finance bill. That is the duty of the opposition. Can we find fully in the announcement, Justin?
Not really, Simba, yes. Because their role is to discredit government.
Yes.
But how they do it ends up making the country look bad. All said and done, country first. So everyone is anticipating that he's going to say on Thursday there's mandamano, or on Friday there's mandamano. That will lead to destruction of property, loss of life. Everyone. So how they are doing it?
He's not the only one who's actually threatened to go back to the streets, Justin. The civil service unions in the country have actually said that if this goes through, we're going to go back to the streets. University students are also threatened to go back to the streets as well. So it's not just a question of the opposition. It's the opposition sort of emphasizing what a section of Kenyans feel about this bill.
But the tragedy is that
yes.
during opposition mandamano or Azimio mandamano, there's loss of life, destruction of property, people close shop.
Yes.
That is the difference. All the others we've seen, and I've not had any report of loss of life or destruction of property,
yes.
or that the economy is at a standstill. But for them, there's this incitement that comes with it, and there's so much haywire that is happening in the country.
When you look at the incitement levels, from what the president, the deputy president are saying, well, they're saying, well, just in point, the president is saying, well, there'll be no roads for you if your members of parliament actually go in and oppose this bill. Over the other side, the president is saying, I'm waiting to see who is that within this government who's going to come in and oppose this bill. Who is inciting more? Is it somebody who's telling you, we will go to the street and oppose this bill? Or it's somebody who's telling you, you dare do this? This is not going to happen.
Unfortunately, Kenya Kwanza takes it on the incitement.
Yes.
The president has the duty of care. But the way he's speaking is construed that he no longer cares about Kenyans. It's construed like it is about his ego right now, and what he says is right. And that is unfortunate because Azimio will come in and say, you will not dare us. And I always blame Kenya Kwanza for the mandamano. I remember Raila Amolo Odinga after the election was silent for the longest time. And Rigathi Gachagua would always say that we want these people with their system. They were always inciting. And I'm sure and these guys are on your case. So I blame Kenya Kwanza because they've forgotten that they have the duty of care in this country.
Yes.
They are very irresponsible. That one I can dare say, because I don't expect someone who is hoping for the government to work, someone in charge, and Azimio's role is to discredit them. That is their work. But the government does not even have to speak in a way that they're inciting or dividing Kenyans. Let me tell you, Simba, they are at a loss. Because Kenya Kwanza supporters have come to a realization and they're like, you know what, this is downright arrogance. If you're going to show us what you're going to do, we are going to show you that we gave you this job.
Yes.
So it's unfortunate that Kenya Kwanza is fueling the whole conversation.
Yes, pretty much. So here's the thing, once we come back from this tiny breather that I want us to go to stop, we can give time for Edwin Kigoli as well to join us. I'm gonna read for you some sentiments of top Kenya Kwanza officials who are expressing their sentiments on exactly how this process is going to go on Thursday, and as from today, when that bill is essentially going to be tabled in Parliament. But then I will weigh in on what the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance are also saying from their side, top officials. So we say, who is supposed to speak responsibly? Because a member of Parliament is supposed to speak the voice of the people. Go in, talk about this bill in a proper way. Go through the views that have been given to you by your people and then vote on it credibly. But is that what we're going to see because indeed, majority of Kenya Kwanza members of parliament are already saying we have the numbers. You could see the majority whip they are talking about is already has 150, even before they actually go in and talk about this particular bill on Thursday. So who is going to represent the voice of majority of Kenyans who are not allied to either Kenya Kwanza or the Azimio la Umoja Wana Kenya Alliance, as we talk about political ultimatums within the Finance Bill 2023. The story we're telling today is a story of passion in practice that grows into business.
We have partnered with the Youth Fund, talk to as many youth as possible and work with them, hold their hand.
It is an expose of captains who have decided to take on challenges in different sectors and industries within the country.
My mentors had also not started as CEOs. They grew up and they showed me how they grew in the organizations. So that's what motivated me to actually do international business. And it was a good experience.
As an individual, support in bridging that care, part of me also to offer a solution. I want to leave this world a better place than I found it.
This is the Captain's Arena. My name is Simba Kiage.
Katika kipindi cha Ukulima ni Mali ili uweze kujifunza mambo mengi kuhusu ukulima wa mimea, ufugaji wa wanyama, teknolojia na sayansi ndani ya ukulima, na uweze kujifunza ili ukifanya ukulima uweze kupata hela. Kumbuka kipindi ni nini? Kipindi ni Ukulima ni Mali na Manjoro, upate hela.
As the night falls, we come to life to bring you a comprehensive broadcast from the numerous events happening across our 47 counties.
When it breaks, it matters, and each story is important.
If it's Thursday, join me, Nancy Lima, and my able panelists as we break down the law jargons and analyze the Constitution in a way only you can understand.
The news cycle never stops, neither does time. We cover each and every sector and present to you factual and accurate occurrences. This is where facts win the day.
Join me, Nancy Lima,
Ian Keitani,
Marian Gashohi, every Monday,
Tuesday, every Wednesday,
Thursday,
as from 9 p.m. on The Insight.
Only
on Lookuptv.
KM Lookup Media, the holding company for Muthingi and Lookuptv, proudly presents the Mount Kenya Region Roadshow. It's time to mark your calendars because from June 26 to July 1st, 2023, we are bringing the excitement to Kiambu, Murang'a, Kirinyaga, Embu, Meru, Laikipia, Nyeri, Nyandarua, and Nakuru counties. Are you ready to be a part of an electrifying TV roadshow? Join us as we embark on a thrilling journey through the magnificent Mount Kenya region. Lookuptv and Muthingi TV are hitting the road. we are coming straight to your towns. But that's not all. We are not just bringing you TV. We are bringing you an unforgettable experience. Enjoy your favorite comedians like Njoro wa Ukulima ni Mali, Marafiki, among others, live performances, and get a chance to meet your favorite TV personalities right in your own town. To our sponsors and partners, book your slot for the greatest brand experience and conversions. To book this fast-moving opportunity, call 0110-430-158 or email sales@lookuptv.co.ke. Get ready to be swept off your feet as we bring the magic of television to your doorstep. Let the TV adventure begin. Mizizi Africa Homes is Kenya's fastest growing property development company. We offer home and investment solutions that are cost effective and of the highest quality. If you are an aspiring homeowner, look no further than Mizizi Africa Homes for the best competitive rates in town. Introducing our new project at Bustani ya Mizizi in Malindi, a prime property with close proximity to Malindi Town, Sandy Beach, international hotels and airport, private, public schools and hospitals, commercial area and police stations, fertile land, well drained with a perimeter fence all round, sufficient borehole and county water, electricity and man-made water harvesting dams for farming and fishing. Retire mapema bila pressure and grab yours today. An 8th acre at only 99k with ready title deeds. For installment payment, deposit 50%, balance in 6 months installment. Financing option available. Bustani ya Mizizi in Malindi. Mapema ndio best. For more information, contact us on 020-790-2215 or WhatsApp us on 0742-112-215, www.miziziafricahomes.com and email info@miziziafricahomes.com. Our offices are at Westlands, Watamu Court, Room 3, opposite Sarit Center. Mizizi Africa Homes, together building a solid foundation.
In a world where every voice matters, where women and children need our unwavering support, Muthingi TV's Muthoni Nyarari stands out, and it's for this reason that she has been nominated for the AfriGlow Women Choice Awards 2023 as the presenter of the year. Your voice matters. Your support counts. To vote for Muthoni Nyarari, dial *483 *733 *551212#. Together, let's amplify our voices and bring attention to the issues that matters the most.
As the night falls, we come to life to bring you a comprehensive broadcast from the numerous events happening across our 47 counties.
When it breaks, it matters, and each story is important.
If it's Thursday, join me, Nancy Lima, and my able panelists as we break down the law jargons and analyze the Constitution in a way only you can understand.
The news cycle never stops, neither does time. We cover each and every sector and present to you factual and accurate occurrences. This is where facts win the day.
Join me, Nancy Lima,
Ian Keitani,
Marian Gashohi, every Monday,
Tuesday, every Wednesday,
Thursday,
as from 9 p.m. on the Insight.
Only
on Lookup TV.
So the story we're telling today is a story of passion in practice that grows into business.
We have partnered with the Youth Fund, talk to as many youth as possible, and work with them all their hand.
It is an expose of captains who have decided to take on challenges in different sectors and industries within the country.
My mentors had also not started as CEOs. They grew up and they showed me how they grew in the organizations. So that's what motivated me to actually do international business. And it was a good experience.
As an individual, support in bridging that care gap, part of me also to offer a solution. I want to leave this world a better place than I found it.
This is the Captain's Arena. My name is Simba Kiage.
A man, a symbol of strength, power, and leadership. What does it take for a man to meet society expectations of provision and leadership?
Lazima uwe mtu wa bidii, lazima ukija kuwa lazima uwe ni provider, wewe ndio unatoa kila kitu.
In our weekly episode of Born a Man.
Kusurvive kwa shule ilikuwa ni noma. Yeah, getting something to eat bado, especially in my last 2 years ilikuwa ngumu sana.
Moving from State House Road to Kahawa Ndani, where they came back to be hosted.
We embark on telling stories of what it takes to become a man in today's society, like it has never been told before.
I know men, we are cowards. Because tunaambiwa watu wakiiga kufa kimwanaume. Kufa kimwanaume, that's nonsense.
This is the life of a man.
How do women do it? Will the real superheroes please stand up?
Welcome to the best show on all things women.
You can.
Now we have to tell you, on our show, we're not just talk. We're mothers, wives, working women, your hosts, and the list goes on.
We also know how to relax and have some fun. It's living the life.
Yes, it is.
It's all about trying out fresh meals. As you know, your health comes first. Experience a tasty and sweet aroma in your kitchen today. It's not just about cooking, but also having fun, interesting conversations, keeping it professional, and not forgetting refreshing moments.
Oh, let me tell you, mine is gonna be oh.
The Cook-Off with Alex Karani, Saturdays at 6 p.m.
We'll read for you a quote by one senator, Cherard Gay, that is Samson Cherard Gay, that's the Nandi senator, who says that any Kenya Kwanza member of parliament who shall vote against the Finance Bill 2023 should face the full force of the party disciplinary mechanisms. Party position is supreme in any democracy. Just before we bring in Mr. Kigoli, Edwin, Justina, you hear exactly what that is. That party is supreme in any democracy, that we move as a party. So whatever we say stays.
Let me remind Kenyans that political parties are just vehicles, but you're Kenyan first, all said and done. What is the interest of the Kenyans that you're representing? But it has all been skewed by the fact that many of our leaders or people in politics or people who hold elective positions were funded by a master. So now the master is coming to cash in on the money he gave them. So that is why they have the voice or the courage to say party stand is important than what the Kenyans are saying.
Not the very first time that we are saying this, though. We know that's how parties in the country run. You're essentially funded by one who essentially then gets you in the movement. But is it only that it's because this time we have a strong opposition that has really opposed this bill to the point now that the government in place really has to look for ways to run their businesses? That's the only difference. Because Justin, you and I have been in this country for quite a long time. I mean, we've seen controversial bills that go to the National House and pass, but we never see the level of public participation and demonstrations in this country in the process for public participation. Is it because now there's an opposition in government that is essentially pushing the government to act, to prove?
No, I think the difference is that Kenya Kwanza or the executive has exposed themselves more, which is a good thing. There have been other financial bills, but we've never gotten to analyze them as the way we've analyzed this one.
What do you think is the difference with how we've analyzed this one this time around?
It's the fact that it has been brought to us, the Kenyans. The other one is just in passing. It's never given the attention.
Yes.
It's never given the limelight.
Yes.
It's never it's controversial, but it's never seen or discussed.
Yes.
Many a times Uhuru Kenyatta used to avoid the conversation, but now William Ruto and Gigathi are speaking about it.
Sorry.
And it's bringing the curiosity
Yes.
to Kenyans. They're like, hey, wait a minute, what is this thing they're telling us about? So I think, one, they've done a good thing, taking it out there to the citizen. Of course, it is our constitutional right to have the conversation, but theirs is overexposed, and that is why we are criticizing it. But they knew that once they take it out to the public, the feedback would have been yes or no. So I wonder why they are now trying to force our MPs or their MPs to pass it without considering the voice of the people. Remember, a lot of money has been used in the public participation.
Yes.
They were in hotels around the country, you know. The mileage, they pay DMs. Yet they're saying in this country there is no money. So what was the purpose of the public participation? Spending the Kenyans' money, yet you're saying there's no money, and then you tell us it doesn't make sense. They would have just passed it then without even involving the Kenyans.
Yes. Justina, I'll be coming back to you because it's the same question that I keep on asking every other person that I sit with, that is it some sort of unpreparedness from the president? Because if indeed you knew that this is exactly what you're going to do, you'd have liked to think that the first people to convince would have been your members of parliament. Not at this stage, at the stage of drafting this particular bill, because indeed you had all the time, you had all the resources to sit with them and say that this is how we are going to move. So that once you come outside here, you speak with one voice, as the voice of the government. Let me then bring in Mr. Kigoli at this point. Mr. Kigoli, Edwin, good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning. It is my pleasure to join you this morning and to our viewers as well.
Fantastic. So I just want to start with this particular quote by one Senator, Samson Cherargei, who's saying that any Kenya Kwanza allied member of parliament who votes against the finance bill 2023 then come Thursday should go through party disciplinary mechanisms. And in fact, he's saying that the party is supreme when it comes to these particular issues. Do you agree, Mr. Kigoli?
Thank you. In my political science class, we came across the subject of diplomacy. And when we talk about diplomacy, there are various ways in which diplomacy is achieved. And one of the ways is through negotiation. Another way is through threats and concessions. So if now the Kenya Kwanza government have reached a point where they have to use, threats of sanctions of errant members who probably vote against the bill, then that is where they are. But then in a moving and working democracy, when you look at the Article 32 of our Kenya Constitution, which provides for, freedom of belief, opinion, every elected leader has to represent their constituencies. And when a leader, for instance, we had a number of MPs from Central Kenya, in particular, Kiambu County, who says, that their constituents do not support the bill, and they have given them express instructions to vote against the bill. So in the end, it's about whom am I fighting for? And who took me to Parliament? Yes, I used a vehicle, but who fueled the vehicle? Who provided the means, like for me to get to Parliament? It is my electorate. In the end, I am answerable to the electorate much as I am answerable to my political party.
Yes.
And for Senator Cherargei to come out with those, some sort of threatening words, it means the bill is not as popular as one would want. To use of threats or promising sanctions to members who will be voting against the bill. So this bill, it might have some good ideas in the long run, but the question is, what is this bill promising immediately? It is promising a lot of pain to Kenyans. It is going to make the cost of living unbearable to most of Kenyans. And that's why the Kenya Kwanza government is also wary that members of parliament could resort to voting against it, which I do not believe is the case, because
yes.
They are likely to vote as the party wants them to.
Mr. Kigoli, there's another question that I put to Justina Wamae in the studio shortly on when it's not just Senator Cherargei who's speaking about this. I mean, this weekend, you and I were treated to that drama of the deputy president saying, well, any member of parliament who opposes the finance bill 2023, their constituents will not get votes, because they're saying, well, this bill promises to actually develop their constituencies. They're also saying, well, he doesn't understand why any other governor in the country as well should oppose this particular bill. It's not just him. I want to point you out to the sentiments of the president, who's saying, well, he's going to watch closely. He didn't come out saying, well, this is the punishment that we're going to have to do, just like Senator Cherargei said. He said he is going to watch closely and see who that member of parliament is within the Kenya Kwanza government who's going to vote against the wishes of majority of Kenyans. That is employment, development, reducing the cost of living, and all those promises that he came in with. Those sentiments, right there, Mr. Kigoli, can we call them indiscipline or recklessness within the party, because the constitutional process for that particular bill hasn't been completed yet?
The constitutional process is already underway, but
yes.
it has to culminate in the National Assembly,
yes.
or Parliament, so to speak. But then when I hear my president coming out to say he's going to watch closely as to how members will be voting with possible consequences for those who will be opposing the bill, it takes me aback, because look, the president swore to serve all Kenyans, and independent experts are saying that this bill is going to have more damage than the good it is bringing. Because, yes. Look, every employer is going to contribute 3% to the housing levy, much as their staff are contributing. So the private sector is going to take austerity measures in terms of the workforce. And if you have 100 staff and you're supposed to contribute 3% of their salaries on every staff, companies will go into downsizing. And downsizing means many people are going to be laid off,
yes.
And that is just going to compound the crisis of the cost of living as it is. Times are hard, and the least we can do, and the least the government can do, is to cushion Kenyans so that we are able to sail through these storms. But if we introduce a raft of changes, too many at the same time, the people...
Yes, we lost him momentarily there. Hopefully, I will have you back again, Mr. Kigoli, but I've got your point. The question then is, who is going to stop them, Justin? Because the opposition is telling them, stop. In fact, now, more than ever, the opposition now in this particular conversation for political ultimatums, they look like they're the ones who are politically correct. They are saying, let the process go through. Do not tell us what to do. Let the people decide. But then the question that I want to ask you outright, Justina, is this a rigged process already? Can we say that the Kenya Kwanza government has already rigged the process of the Finance Bill 2023?
I can say it seems like it's rigged.
Yes, yes.
You know, the president, it's good to look at context. Where he started his politics was, you know, chama cha mama na baba.
Yes.
So where chama said something, you do what chama is saying. So he's still hung up there. He's thinking that Kenyans of that decade are the ones who are here now. He's forgetting that there's so much information that Kenyans know.
Yes.
He's forgetting that he said he was running on the bottom-up ideology. The Mama Mboga is asking, if you add mobile transfer excess duty from 12% to 15%, but you reduce bank charges excess duty from 20 to 13%. So who are you serving? Mama Mbogas and Auto Boda Boda use M-Pesa more than bank accounts, you know? So already he seems like his priorities are mismatched according to how he got into power.
Yes.
Remember, he has not apologized to Mama Mbogas that he never gave them jobs. He used to say that mtapatiwa makazi. People used to say, where is that Mama Mboga, Mama Mtu Boda Boda? In cabinet, he failed to deliver on that. Now he's pushing them further into poverty. So who will stop them? Actually, I'm afraid to say I don't know who will stop them. I don't know, because from where they sit, they seem to be the end to everything. And I blame the citizens. They lost their voice. Simba, it's good to also focus on what you've done to get yourself here.
Is it easier to blame the citizens in this conversation because the citizens, Justin, voted in leaders who they thought are going to represent their views? Is that not why we have members of parliament sitting in our house, that we're paying with our money and heavily at that?
The citizens voted and didn't vote. Remember, 8 million Kenyans never voted.
Yes.
And then the others who voted, they had this transactional kind of relationship.
Yes.
You've given me money, you've mobilized, I'm eating my money, I'm going to vote for you.
Yes.
They forgot the strategic relationship of it, that this is a journey that you're moving for the next 5 years together. So they lost their voice then, due to the transactional relationship. They chose to eat money. And I'm not saying all citizens, but let me tell you, Simba, I've met 3 types of Kenyans on the campaign trail. There's one, those who fund political parties for policy influence. Then there are these others you meet on the ground, the Mama Mbogas. Those ones, when you ask them who is the best candidate, they'll tell you Fulani because he fueled my motorcycle, they bought my watermelon, you know. For them, their interest was, or rather their needs were satisfied at that point.
Yes.
Then there's the middle class who we never find on the campaign trail.
Yes.
They never vote, they never even make a decision to be online and engage in such a conversation. For them, they feel that everything is going well. Now when their employer cuts them down, because now these taxes are so heavy for the employer, and the purposes of private sector is profits, that is when they'll realize that, you know what, my health insurance will not cater for me. Politics is the only way. Politics and leadership. We need to get ourselves involved. So I'm not looking for the easier way out, blaming the citizen, but to be very honest, the citizens have brought this upon themselves.
Yes, I'll be getting back to you on that, because then it looks as if now we can look for somebody to blame now because there's an avenue for that. Because I think both sides are representing their views, and it's for the very first time now that we can actually sit and engage and say, well, what is the opposition saying? What is the government saying? And what are we saying? But then the only way that you and I can speak is through the members of parliament. The members of parliament who have been rigged. You can say rigged now.
Yes.
So is it then not okay for you to turn around and say, well, guys, we have to blame ourselves? How can we get a member of parliament out of office for somebody who's already been told, we give you cover if you indeed then support our motion?
Well, I think we are at a crossroads.
Yes.
But the beauty of it is that it is a learning process.
Yes.
And that's the same challenge I'm giving government. We know they're human, man is to error.
Yes.
They need to accept and say, well, we tried this approach and Kenyans have refused. Let's do what they're saying.
Yes.
Let me tell you, many Kenyans are saying, why are you giving us a house to sleep in instead of industries to work in? They need to relate to the Kenyan, the common mwananchi. There is so much challenges. People are going through a lot, Simba. But this government seems to feel like they no longer care about the Kenyan. I want to ask the deputy president. He's saying that they found dilapidated coffers and no money. Yet the senators in Kenya Kwanza are going around telling us that all of them, whether you're in executive, legislature, or judiciary,
yes,
you're entitled to a 30 million mortgage, meaning they took that mortgage. Why couldn't this money be used in the housing fund, whatever project then, if they were really genuine about helping Kenyans? That is why I dare say that this project is vendor-driven. If you ask me, public-private partnership, you incur the risks, you incur the losses, you get the profits together. But here's a developer coming, given prime land, free, given tax incentives on chuma and cement and everything.
Yes.
And he's assured that his house is going to be bought. You get? So this investor is going to benefit. That is why I'm saying there's something that is happening here, that Kenyans are going to lose money,
Yes.
and the government is not being open.
Yes.
Number two, we've always had the problem of debt. Do you know why it came? Look at Expressway. We never hired our own engineers. We never used our own local, construction machines and everything. So this guy came, they had the project, they left. We never saw that someone who was hired as an engineer, or 100 of them, were able to pay income tax. The chumas that were used were not Kenyan. If they were Kenyan, the chumas would have been that these people are paying corporate tax. The cement, the same. But now everything was imported, and then now we have a structure here, we can't pay for it. So it goes back to how is Kenya? What is the interest of Kenya as a country in this PPP? But unfortunately, our leaders are looking out for their interests. And I always challenge them, Simba, because many of them are not creative in wealth creation. What they'll do, the money they'll get, the kickback, they'll go build a flat or apartments. Sadly, the people they're expecting, who are Kenyans, to go be tenants, do not have the purchasing power. So we might end up having those ghost towns we see even in China and everywhere else. People having moved from industries to other sectors. So I want this government to remember how they got into power, through the idea of Mama Mboga and Mutu wa Boda Boda. They need to also tell us that, you're telling us that you're giving us fertilizers, incentives. They said they're giving them to 12 priority counties. So many Kenyans never even saw these fertilizers. Now they're telling us that they're going to reclassify fertilizer and pest control from zero rated to exempt VAT supplies. Meaning fertilizer will go up. We are not even full. Cost of food is going up. So this government has misplaced priorities. They do not care what Kenyans are saying. I mean, it's just a mess.
Pretty much. Mr. Kigoli, just before I come back to Justina Wamae on that particular point now on exactly then what next, because there's mere coalition is saying, well, we're going to give you an alternative or a route to have this bill not go through Parliament Thursday. Mr. Kigoli, I asked her this question just before you came in, and this was the question. Do you read unpreparedness from the president? Because if indeed he wanted to speak as the voice of the government, then the first people he would have convinced in this conversation for the finance bill were Kenya Kwanza allied members of parliament. Now, it looks as if the split that was seen in government, or this bad feelings that was seen within the government, or this communications that we're getting here from Senator Kiage is because probably is read that indeed within the government, there are still some people who are opposed to this finance bill.
Let me come in by saying that when the president talks about the independence of police, when he talks about the independence of judiciary, he should also mean the independence of the legislature. There is clear separation of powers in our constitution. And when the president says his eyes are going to be traded on MPs, how they'll be voting, it means there is interference by the executive in the functioning of parliament in discharging its duties. Because the president must let MPs ventilate on bills and motions that are coming to the floor of the House without an external eye, so that Parliament is able to legislate, oversight, and represent without worrying that the president is in on what we are doing.
Mr. Kigoli, if you may allow me, Mr. Kigoli, if you may allow me jump in on that, is that the same thing for party politics as well? Because you see what Senator Kiage there is saying, well, we know what the Constitution says about the powers of the legislature and separation of powers within those three arms of government, but what about within the party? That's what they're saying, that within the party, you gotta support party politics. And the president belongs to a party. UDA is a party, is the majority party within the Kenya Kwanza government. And Senator Kiage is saying, well, fine, you might be a member of parliament, good, but you are a member to the UDA party and you got to play party politics. We're going to watch you and see exactly where you go. So on that front, they're saying We are not interfering with what the parliament is going to do, but we are informing our party members what they have to do. These are the politics of the party.
I think there is a lot of doublespeak by some government officials in parliament and also in the executive, because when the president or the president and Cherargei comes out and says, we are going to watch keenly on how members will be voting, it makes me wonder what the work of the chief whip is doing, because it means there is a shortfall in his ability to whip members into supporting this bill. And
yes, just to inform you on that, just to inform you on that, Kigoli this morning actually spoke, is the one who's quite vocal on this. He said, well, I don't see this particular bill going to vote. Osoro has already spoken on it. He's saying, well, for starters, even before we get to voting, I already have 150. So this bill is going to go through. From that sense,
well, Osoro doesn't look to me as an effective chief whip, because he uses a lot of chest thumping, and I think he's falling short on diplomacy. You know, as a chief whip, you need to have persuasive powers, have the ability to negotiate members into your corner, not to forcefully and appear to be just pushing them with pure muscle. Like demonstrate wit, demonstrate wisdom, demonstrate ability to negotiate, ability to bring people together, not to, you know, use antagonizing words. And with this Kenya Kwanza, finance bill, there is just a lot more that they can change. And in my opening remarks, I had pointed or intimated the fact that when you're introducing a raft of changes, you need to stagger them, because when you bring too much change at the same time, the obvious reaction of the people will be that many of them will tend to coil away, because they see there's so much pain that comes with the bill than the gain that will be brought with it. And Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi was saying Kenyans should brace for 2 more years of pain. Now, if you're saying 2 more years of pain and you bring in this pain in this kind of environment and circumstance in the form of this finance bill, and then a lot of Kenyans would lose faith and hope in this government, much as the bill could promise some good changes and good returns. But the overlapping factor in this bill is the pain, because people are looking at how much is the fuel going to cost. And when Mr.
Kigoli, if you may allow me, Mr. Kigoli, just to ask you this question before we jump on to Justina Wamae right here in the studio, is at what point does this bill stop being politics? Mr. Kigoli, if you can get me, sir.
Say that again?
At what point does this bill stop being political?
There is no point it stops being political, because it started politically. The undertones in the bill, the flashings in the bill took political turn, So when President Ruto says, this housing levy must be implemented, when Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua comes out to say, whether you like it or not, this bill must pass. When the chief whip of the government comes out and says, a government agenda must pass. You see, this must language, sort of must, it rubs people the wrong way, because first of all, you're not appealing to us, you are imposing this thing on us. And they are saying and rallying a rhetoric around housing levy is the sure way to develop a country. And I want to challenge them. What facts and evidence are they relying on this matter? Because housing, much as it is important, it is not the ticket to prosperity of a country. Yes, there will be temporary jobs created. It is not permanent, because this thing is not going to last for 100 years. Construction is not going to go on for 100 years. It is going to take say 2 or 3 financial years ahead, and then we back to default settings. Now, if we want to impose the 3% housing levy, at what cost? Now, the cost is this. Employers are going to downsize their workforce. What does that mean? The retail prices are going to go down, and retail prices, when you look at the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics reporting and the Central Bank of Kenya, that retail sales hold a significant position in the growth and development of our country's gross domestic product. So if we downscale on purchasing power, it means our GDP is not going to grow. It means the forecast of our GDP is going to be hurt significantly. It means the government is going to have a hard time people paying taxes because they don't have disposable income, so people cannot spend. And that spending drives an economy. Yes, there are those who are going to get employment in these housing infrastructure projects, and there are those who are going to lose income as a result of employers downsizing because they don't want to pay too much on these 3% contributions. Now, when a government crafts this kind of a bill,
yes,
my advice is
Mr. Kigoli,
measure it against
I want you to hold your thought. I want you to hold your thought right there, Mr. Kigoli. Once we come from break, then that's exactly when I will give you that chance then to continue expounding your thoughts on exactly what happens when the government crafts this kind of a bill. But if you look at the headlines that especially the Standard has given us this morning, they're talking about how members of parliament are under siege. We take a tiny breather again right here on the Morning Drift. Once we come back, Mr. Kigoli will continue with his point on exactly what happens when a government crafts this kind of a bill. But then once we come back, Justina Wamae did mention there that maybe we need to question ourselves as the citizens. But have we ever in this country, what is different this time around that the citizens have to question themselves? Because the only difference this time around is that we have an opposition that is helping us ask questions, and a government that is asking its members of parliament on exactly how to do their job. What is wrong with that? And how are we going to start asking ourselves the question? And if we're going to correct it, do the politics of the country allow us to correct it? Because we've had so many chances to correct it, but we still keep on getting the same results if this is indeed something to show off. Once we come back right here on the Morning Drift, remember we are online at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. I am at Kiage Simba.
KM Lookup Media, the holding company for Muthingi and Lookuptv, proudly presents the Mount Kenya Region Roadshow. It's time to mark your calendars because from June 26 to July 1st, 2023, we are bringing the excitement to Kiambu, Murang'a, Kirinyaga, Embu, Meru, Laikipia, Nyeri, Nyandarua, and Nakuru counties. Are you ready to be a part of an electrifying TV roadshow? Join us as we embark on a thrilling journey through the magnificent Mount Kenya region. Lookuptv and Muthingi TV are hitting the road. We are coming straight to your towns. But that's not all. We are not just bringing you TV. We are bringing you an unforgettable experience. Enjoy your favorite comedians like Njoro wa Ukulima ni Mali, Marafiki, among others, live performances, and get a chance to meet your favorite TV personalities right in your own town. To our sponsors and partners, book your slot for the greatest brand experience and conversions. To book this fast-moving opportunity, call 0110-430-158 or email sales@lookuptv.co.ke. Get ready to be swept off your feet as we bring the magic of television to your doorstep. Let the TV adventure begin.
Are you a junior secondary school, a college, a TVET institution or a university and you want to advertise your intake? Book now and advertise with us today on both Lookuptv and all our digital platforms. Call us today on 011 0430 158, 011 0430 158 or email us on sales@lookuptv.co.ke.
Some of the trending hashtags online is why the housing levy, and we do know exactly why that is trending, because indeed that particular bill now is going to be read in the House today, and one of the controversial areas around that one is the housing levy that is spiked at 3%, and your employer has to match that 3%. So you can actually call it 6% housing levy if indeed it was going to make sense from you. Mama Mboga is trending, and we do know why, because indeed majority of those people essentially criticizing or critiquing this particular bill said that it is not a Mama Mboga friendly bill. And right now we don't have the Azimio members of parliament, and we do know why, because Raila Amolo Odinga has already said that indeed all the Azimio members of parliament in the House, once the House is going to vote on this bill, this bill, you should open your eyes and reflect on those people who are essentially, and I'm going to quote, on our Saliti wa Kenya. That's what he said, and we're waiting for what indeed is going to happen of their plan, because they've said they're going to give us a plan. Now the last one is Kenya Kwanza members of parliament, again, who majority of critics of this bill feel they are under siege, because indeed the president and the deputy president have pronounced themselves on what indeed they need to do to make sure that this particular bill then goes through. Be part of it. The hashtag that we're using here is the Morning Drift. I am at Kiage Simba Online. But right now, I just want to jump over to Justina Wamae before handing it over to Edwin Kigoli, just to clear his presentation on exactly what happens if indeed this particular bill goes through. Justina, it becomes complicated for you to say now that Kenyan citizens have to ask themselves questions now. It has never happened, Justin, and chances are it's never going to happen. And do you feel that indeed that we're going to get to that level where this country is going to appoint leaders based on merit, based on contribution? So far, if this is going by any indication, that to be any indication, it seems as if the question of the citizenry taking politicians into account is essentially very far-fetched in this country, Justin.
Let me first say that I think one of the solutions that we can have is there's been a conversation on the tax policy.
Yes.
I don't know whether it's over or it's ongoing, but I really hope that if we come up with a tax policy that is progressive, that is futuristic, we can try and estimate that this tax policy is for the year, maybe 1 to year 10, so that we avoid the conversation that even businesses, when they're here, they're wondering what is going to be taxed next year, what is the tax regime. So let's have consistency. That would really work. I don't know where we have gotten that in terms of tax policy,
yes, because
Ukuri Atani had started the conversation last year. However, I think one day we'll get there. Adversity will always bring forth people, great men, great women. And right now what is different, Simba, is the fact that high cost of living, guys are realizing this thing goes deep to policy. It goes back to unemployment. Many families have unemployed kids. They have taken their kids to university. After high school, they stick at home. So they realize it goes back to government policy. Again, food insecurity.
Yes.
I mean, we are hungry. So that goes back to government policy. And then also the public is not informed. We are watching politics from other countries. We are seeing them questioning. We are seeing that even the US have had a conversation about their debt. Why can't we have a conversation about our debt? So I think that it is a good thing that this is happening now, so that the next time you're having this issue of campaigns, issue of elections, Kenyans won't see it as an issue, something that doesn't make sense. They'll realize in a kuhusu, it should concern you, that a leader who comes there, who has no spine, who is not courageous enough to speak for them will mess them up. So I think that is what has really changed. But a tax policy that is consistent will be the solution.
Pretty much. But then, if you look by the way at how our party politics are organized, Justin, that even right now within the Kenya Kwanza government, I mean, majority of those deflections, they came in just a couple of months to the election, some weeks even to the election. Essentially telling you it's not on ideology, it is on where I am going to get favor. And it's not the very first time that we've seen when the DP say, well, this is a shares government. If you didn't support us, then there's nothing in here for you. So even the members of parliament that we're voting for, they know very well, I have to be in a party that I'm going to get something by the end of the day. And it's going to be like that even the next election. Because even now, those alliances, as you can see, have already started forming. Are we doomed as a citizenry? Because the only way that we can get proper representation, number one, is to vote. The same people that we're voting for, Justine, are the same people who are looking for shares in this government before they can actually get voted in. So, are we doomed?
No, Simba, we are not doomed. All you need to do is tell the 8 million who never voted last time, remember they were the majority, to involve themselves in politics.
But how are they going to vote? They have to vote for the people that have been represented by these parties. Time in and time out, all the elections in this country present as two factions that we got to vote for. That is a known fact. This time around, it's either you would have voted for Kenya Kwanza or the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance. But then, are we saying that right now, that the Kenya Kwanza could have been the magic bullet for our problems? Turns out, no. Also, there's Azimio coalition. There's some people saying they could have been the magic bullet to our problems. So, are we doomed as a citizenry with the way politics is essentially presented to us? Because right now, we have politicians who've rigged in on the Finance Bill 2023, that they gotta support it, whether you like it or not. Doesn't matter who you support or what you don't support.
No, we are not doomed. I believe that there's some light at the end of the tunnel. Let me tell you, this is where Kenyans will start realizing that I need to involve myself in politics. Yes. I'm a leader, I can speak up, I have ideas. But again, it goes back to the citizens. Are you supporting that MCA who had ideas? Now, are you making him feel that, you know what, we're going to support you, we're going to take you to the county assembly? Yes. So I want to call out any Kenyan who feels that they do not subscribe to the Azimio Kenya Kwanza, but they have ideas. Let's work towards giving Kenyans an alternative. Because year in, year out, we've had these people. They've always been the same ones. But the beauty is that the generation is changing. Let me tell you now, we have a different culture. Only that I need to blame parents again who are my age, because they always say, I can't force my child to be registered as a voter. You need to show your child that politics and leadership will have an influence in their life. So once even the Kenyans become aware that I will need to involve myself in politics, if I'm a leader, I get myself involved as a leader. If I'm a voter, if I'm a citizen, let me question these leaders who are coming in. Let me tell you, adversity is a good thing. I'm so happy that you're having this conversation, because now Kenyans are realizing I don't need to support these people. I don't need to be in these two camps. Yes. I need a different angle. Yes. And that is why I've always said I've never subscribed to their politics. And that is why I was bitter when the other person went there, because we somewhat came with a different mindset. And I'm happy Kenyans can now ask something, a question of how are you going to make money? Because that is the conversation we instilled in them. So it's about any other leader who feels I'm not part of the two camps. Yes. I'm different, I have an idea, I'm futuristic, I want to see Kenyan playing in the big leagues. To step aside from them, give Kenyans an alternative, give Kenyans an idea and a roadmap, and we'll get there.
Pretty much. All right, Mr. Kigoli, we just want to get your sentiments on that as well. And just before you jump into your earlier sentiments of exactly what's going to happen if this bill goes through, let's look at exactly what we're faced with right now. And we've seen it from time to time that indeed when particular bills go through the National House, we do wait for the court system in the country then to come in and stop it. And that same thing did happen on one contentious bill that was getting passed. That is the housing fund in the previous government. Again, that was essentially made not mandatory. Good. Now, yes, I'm getting informed that we've lost Mr. Kigoli again. All right, let me just wait for him to come back online. Please inform me when we have him back so that he can actually clear his earlier sentiments. Good. All right, now, Justin, here's the question then. The president is met his case on the finance bill. He's presented it. He said that he feels this is the way to go. The deputy president definitely has to play to the tune of the president, support your president to deliver on his agenda. And I did ask this question, and I want you to really then come back and elaborate on it. Because it is not illegal for the president to wish for the support of his government. I mean, by the end of the day, he's a politician. And the only way that you can run a country, and we do know, is that to play politics and proper politics. Is he not listening then? Because indeed, the only way, Senator Cherargei, the only way these members of parliament now that are allied to the Kenya Kwanza government would come in and vehemently speak about this, sort of say, well, this has to go through. You gotta support it. If you don't support it, then you will be taken through the disciplinary process within the party. Did he not listen? In the sense, you would like to think that the first thing to do then as a government is to work in a rejoinder that this is exactly what we're doing and we may need your input and support. You would like to think that this conflict that we're seeing within the Kenya Kwanza side would have been back doors when they were formulating these policies, you know? Then come out and present a project to Kenyans so that I don't have to look at my member of parliament who's now under siege, who's gonna support this, knowing very well if he doesn't support, he might even get out of the party as a bad person. Because at the end of the day, he is or she is a politician. Is this blame not solely on the president then? Because if you wanted the government to support you, if you wanted your party members to support you, you could have first touched base with them on this particular project that you want to implement. Because every time they come out, they are speaking the voice for the government. That we, as the government, want to do this. But then, you're the president. You would have spoken to them. You would have convinced them first.
Remember, the president, Simba, has always said this phrase, nitajipanga. Mimi ni mtu wa kujipanga. So I think the moment he funded them, that was part of kujipanga. He cut their voice down. So he didn't need them to even give input. But he needs to remember that these MPs are with the Mwananchi day in, day out, and they're giving the voice of Mwananchi. Yes. So his bill is seen to be, it does not reflect the whatever, does not reflect the experience on the ground. So him is just giving something up there, not taking into account what the Mwananchi is saying. So I think kujipanga kwake was, I gave you money, I expect you to support me. So now whatever he does now, he doesn't want to hear anyone giving their voice. Yes. That was a misstep on his end. Because he would have told them from the word go, this is what I'm planning to do. Start telling your people on the ground, we are doing this because you're fundraising. Now, in fact, I have a question for them. I wonder, because they have singled out Wamushomba.
Yes.
What are they going to do to her? I'm a curious Kenyan. I want to know what is her punishment? What will they do to her?
Yes.
Because already the DP has fingered her. You know, he's saying, he has pointed her out and said that out of the 80, it is only one. So what are you going to do to her as a curious Kenyan? So
do you think she might be alone in this? There might be silent voices that would have been represented in this bill that are not going to speak now. The only difference is that she's spoken about it publicly. The silent voices within Kenya Kwanza government who may have wanted to come in and voice their concerns in this bill. Do you think they're going to do it now, Justin?
In fact, from the onset, many of them had spoken against, but she has been left as the lone voice. Let me remind Kenya Kwanza that democracy says the majority have their way, but the minority will have their say. So they need to allow her to have her say.
Within party politics, she might find herself getting singled out.
Of course. Already she has been singled out. And that is why she's saying, at least it will go down in history that I rejected this bill. But the others, many of them are scared, and they always wonder, why are you scared of these people? Can't you speak? Can't you reason? You're in the same party.
But that's the same thing that we were talking about. You speak against it now, the party would come in and punish you. It's not the very first time that we've seen it. I mean, the Azimio coalition has just punished a couple of them, but waiting for a registrar of a political parties to actually get everything in writing so that they can cement it. It's an example of what goes on in these parties, Justin.
And it goes to show that in politics we elect yes men and women. people who are afraid to think, people who are spineless.
We can talk about all of them being like that, Justin.
Some who are. And remember, there's a time Uhuru Kenyatta blamed and said, you people hang on my coat to win an election.
Yes.
So I think we also need to move away from, yes, we have a party leader, yes, we have a vehicle, but my mind, I'm supposed to be given the legroom to think and give my idea and also give what I feel is right or wrong.
Yes.
Now is a battle which is very unfortunate between the president or the presidency and the citizens. He's now coming off as the enemy of the people. And that is why when many people are saying, wait a minute, Raila has seen the opportunity in Mount Kenya politics. And maybe he's gaining ground, as Miguna told him. So the president needs to accept that we are human, we are all human, we all make mistakes. If Kenyans are refusing, don't force us that this is the only opportunity to make money. One, streamline money that has been collected by KRA. Two, what are your priorities? Why are senators and MPs telling us that they've been given 30 million mortgage?
Yes.
All of them. That is a lot of money. Should have gone to the housing fund.
Yes.
So what is their priority? And let me remind this government, because they've been there from Moi's time. Moi's time, maybe it came off like there was a lot of money because one, we didn't have two levels of government, we didn't have a larger population, we didn't have many people who are unemployed at during Moi's tenure. But now things have changed. The economy has changed. The global politics and the global supply chains and disruptions are coming up. So it calls for prudence and austerity. The moment the president and the deputy go somewhere, I want Kenyans to ask themselves in terms of logistics. Remember, when he goes somewhere, everyone, including cabinet ministers and MPs, are following him there. They are using fuel that is Kenyan paid by taxes. You see, Kenyan taxes are paying for this fuel. Yes. Where is the austerity? So Mudavadi tells us to tighten our belts, but government is not tightening their belt. And that is why Kenyans are resisting. If a Kenyan can't even have a decent meal, save for the fact that they're telling us that the fish from foreign fish will be taxed.
Yes.
That will answer the question why a fish in Kisumu is more expensive than in Nairobi, right? It's the only thing that maybe people will be happy about.
Yes.
But as it is, the president and Kenya Kwanza need to realize that in as much as they have numbers, their MPs must demonstrate that they have a spine, they have a brain, and they're thinking for themselves and they're thinking for the Kenyans.
Yes. Let me point you back to exactly what has happened to these controversial bills that have been thrown in the Kenyan domain. And one, Dr. President William Ruto has been a party to this process. I mean, the housing agenda is not something new. It's something that he has carried from the Jubilee government that was a part of, and he drummed support for this particular bill back then. Went back to the National House, went through, but then Okiya Mtata went to court and presented it to the court and said, I do not feel that indeed this one has been presented correctly to the people of Kenya, and gave out the reasons as to why this should stop. But Justina, I just want to give you a break so that you take a tiny breather. I'm being informed that Mr. Kigoli is back, but I'll be getting back to you. Mr. Kigoli, this is a question that I wanted to put to you before we lost you momentarily. Here's a question. You would like to think that for a man that we're calling smart politically, that is one Dr. President William Ruto, that the first people he should have convinced were the members of parliament that are allied to the Kenya Kwanza government, so that they speak in one voice. Now, this particular pronouncements that we're getting here from majority of the Kenya Kwanza members of parliament, is it sentiment, or is it an indication then to the fact that indeed, even within the party, there might be a lot of members of parliament who are opposed to this finance bill, but they've not been given the power to pronounce themselves?
It doesn't look like there is a chance to have a contrary opinion on this bill.
Yes.
And Kenya Kwanza is hell-bent on passing by all means.
Yes.
And that is up to them, because the government is for Kenya Kwanza for the next 5 years, and they will do whatever they want with the Kenyan people. And I agree with the sentiment of Justina that we Kenyans, because when we're given a chance to elect leaders, we retract into our small thinking of tribal cocoons and ethnic considerations than voting for somebody on the ability to deliver on the public mandate. So we Kenyan people are the architects of the economic and political crisis we find ourselves in. And we are crying right now and saying we did not anticipate this. How couldn't we have anticipated? Yet we knew from the word go that if you vote this way, this is the likely consequence. If you vote this way, this is the consequence. It boils down to we the people. And when Honorable Member Elachi tells Raila Odinga, let Kenyan people be, let them suffer and eat the pain that they create for themselves, I tend to agree with that. Let us also learn, let us hit the wall and realize that what is it that is good for this country? Do we need to continue the ethnic trajectory of voting in leaders, or we need to change the way we're electing leaders? And going back to my point, the ripple effect of this bill is unimaginable, because we will be having multinationals relocating from Nairobi or relocating from Kenya. And when you look at the competitiveness of the cost of power or the power tariffs, compare it with Ethiopia. Ethiopia invested in one Ethiopian Grand Renaissance Dam. Now in Kenya, we are building mushrooms of dams, small dams scattered across the country. And if we wanted to invest in power generation like the Ethiopian people did, we would do it and make Kenya a competitive power in production of power, and would make our companies, and also the foreign companies wish to come to Kenya because it is affordable to use power. But under the current circumstances, the Kenyan market is not enviable, it is not competitive, it is not attractive, particularly to foreign direct investment. Now, this finance bill comes to compound those facts. Now, the government needs to rethink, the government needs to relook at the way they want to implement these development projects. Yes, they are good projects. Yes, we have statistics by the Kenya Bureau of Statistics saying that by 2050, we're going to have even almost double the number of people living in urban centers, and we need to plan for that. Now, it doesn't mean all these plans must be implemented in this financial year. It doesn't mean that way. A good listening government would measure the decisions or the impact of their decisions against the prevailing circumstances. And when you overtax people, we will be having an impact on retail sales, purchasing power, which speaks powerfully to economic growth and development. Now, we still have sectors that are lacking. Look at our education sector. We have one of the most innovative and dynamic youthful population, but our dismal investment in technology, especially in our universities and training institutions, is worrying and appalling, because look, our universities are increasing fees not because they are modernizing the teaching methods, but because they just want to remain afloat. They just want to remain operational. Our universities have failed to invest in the state-of-the-art technology that can deliver education to meet the threats of the 21st century. We are still using and relying on outdated and old models of delivering education. Look, even most of our universities can even offer good quality virtual education because they lack the infrastructure to deliver. Now, when you have university fees doubling or even tripling, it means higher education is going to be a reserve of the rich, and the poor are going to remain uneducated, and that is going to impact on the competitiveness of business innovation and entrepreneurial skills, because how are these people supposed to be implementing cutting-edge technologies in bolstering businesses? So the government needs to look at that as a ripple effect. Now, if we invested in one mega dam, if I go back, you would have the power of, like, the cost of power go down. Or if we opened power production to the private sector, it would offer competition to Kenya Power, so that we can have a choice. I might choose Kenya Power, or I choose a private supplier of power to my business or my home, to power plants and factories. But that is not the case in this country. Look, Mumia's Sugar, as a company that was doing very well, it was making nice sugar and everybody was liking it. Right now, that company is as good as dead, all right? And governments have been coming with 1 billion check, a political check actually, not even actual money. It is just some sort of a check, but it doesn't translate into anything. When we get private investors to go into this milling plant. Political interference, you'll hear people like Malala coming out the loudest of their voices wanting to say how much they know about the company, yet in summary, what I'm saying is this: the government should incentivize the private sector so that the private sector has the resources to support the government's initiative so that it lessens this pressure of overtaxing Kenyans to raise money. Incentivize the private sector, open up the market, let it be attractive to foreign direct investment. Talk to people out there, let them come and set farm here in Kenya. Let us have friendly power tariffs. Let us have a friendly taxable, policies that do not scare people away but attract. Now, if you concentrate your taxation on just one aspect, the chances of you missing out on the minimum are very high. But if you spread these taxes so that we don't, or the people don't feel it immediately as too much pain, government will impose VAT on other products, all right, while opening up the private sector to more investment. And when you look at the borrowing previously, especially by the past regime, you see that the borrowing in the public or domestic has been so much. That is that the private sector is stifled of the money to invest because it is taking it to government bonds, treasury bills. Now, people cannot borrow to invest in their SMEs. Women and youth groups cannot even get money to implement their ideas. If government can borrow less from the private sector, but the private sector will have some money to give to people to start businesses, what you'll be achieving, or what the government will be achieving, is enabling many people to come into that taxable bracket, and that's what we want. All right. So let us bring many people into taxable bracket than advancing policies and measures that will send people out of the job market, and that is just going to cause so much suffering and pain to an already struggling economy.
Mizizi Africa Homes is Kenya's fastest growing property development company. We offer home and investment solutions that are cost effective and of the highest quality. If you are an aspiring homeowner, look no further than Mizizi Africa Homes for the best competitive rates in town. Introducing our new project at Bustani ya Mizizi in Malindi, a prime property with close proximity to Malindi town, bila pressure, and grab yours today. An 8th acre at only 99k with ready title deeds. For installment payment, deposit 50%, balance in 6 months installment. Financing option available. Bustani ya Mizizi in Malindi, mapema ndio best. For more information, contact us on 020-790-2215 or WhatsApp us on 0742-112-215. www.miziziafricahomes.com and email info@miziziafricahomes.com. Our offices are at Westlands, Watamu Court, Room 3, opposite Sarit Center. Mizizi Africa Homes, together building a solid foundation.
In a world where every voice matters, where women and children need our unwavering support, Muthingi TV's Muthoni Nyarari stands out, and it's for this reason that she has been nominated for the AfriGlow Women Choice Awards 2023 as the presenter of the year. Your voice matters. Your support counts. To vote for Muthoni Nyarari, dial *483 *733 *551212#. Together, let's amplify our voices and bring attention to the issues that matters the most.
All right. On to the last part of our conversation this morning of the finance bill versus political ultimatums. And Justina, let me weigh in on this. Ruto was part of the government that was taken to court on one of his major proposals on the finance bill, that is affordable housing. By then, it was the Affordable Housing Fund. That's what they're calling it. Now they're calling it the Housing Fund. When the same man who took him to court, who took his government to court, one, is again telling him
tupatane kotini
again. And he told him face off, like you see, you proposed this in the previous government. I took you to court. It was made voluntary.
Yes.
Now you've come back again with the same proposal. You've changed nothing on it. In fact, you've made it once. That's what he told him. I'm going to take you again to court so that I could present the same evidence that I presented, and the courts are going to listen. In fact, he told me the Constitution is a friend of mine more than you are.
Yes.
But then that hasn't stopped him. It hasn't stopped him just then. It's actually given him more power to go around drumming support for that particular bill. So the question is, if indeed they are listening, should that by itself elicited a reaction from them?
It should have. But remember, there's a time Uhuru Kenyatta told us that someone goes around pretending to be very bright, and they're not. So maybe Uhuru Kenyatta is being vindicated now. But again, maybe, I don't know. But I remember the president trying to argue that Omtata is preventing him from creating employment for the youth.
Yeah.
But you know, many of the youth are saying, we don't want houses to sleep in. We want industries to work in. Remember, this house construction will end. But with industries, we need caps, we need clothes, we need food. Those are things that will always be needed. As long as we have industries going on, as long as Kenyans will be employed, the demand for anything we use in this country, including tissue paper and furniture, will always be high. So why not lower cost of production, invite investors, even local investors. Remember, even people in Kariombangi light industries are manufacturers, but they're always facing issues of the Subarus, the KRAs. Being a businessman in this country, you're seen as if you're a goon or a thief. It kills the morale of being in business. And that is why I'm challenging this government. I have taken a petition to the National Assembly to decriminalize industrial hemp as a raw material for industries. Remember, Vision 2030 stipulates that we must be an industrialized country by then. Vision 2030 was the collective minds of Kenyans saying unemployment is a challenge. And that is where they said that with industries, many Kenyans will be employed, many Kenyans, we are going to consume superior quality goods that are Kenyan made. For starters, let us first consume brand Kenya products before we think about exporting or even selling to anyone else. Look, the Tanzanian gas is coming into the market. What are we selling to Tanzania in exchange? That explains even our debt, you know, our issue of the dollar issue, you know, because we have trade deficit. There is nothing, there is no exportation that we're giving that is specifically brand Kenya. And remember, government's form of or other sources of finance is what? Taxes. if you have more people who are working, you're going to have more income tax. If you have more companies and industries, you're going to have more corporate tax. So you won't need to overtax the already in the net. We're going to have more people paying taxes and more money for government. So I think the challenge is the government does not want to tire its head thinking outside the box. And that is why when I talk about industrial hemp, which is Katani, you'll hear someone saying that I want Kenyans to smoke bangi. It's not about smoking bangi. Right now there's a headline asking that, where is the money? Because even the police are refusing to arrest people because they don't have money to buy food for those who are already who are imprisoned. There's the issue of medicine, NHIF. You go in with your card, you're being told it's being rejected. There's the issue of pesa ya wazee. Where is the money? So when the president comes here to say that they need more money, they first need to account for what they already have. Because remember, Kenyans have trust issues with the president. There's issues of how he handles money, whether it is true or perceived. He has to clear his name that I am prudent, I know how to spend your money well, and you can trust me with your money. But as it is right now, the president is not even, people are not taking him seriously. He says about pikipikis as steamer, and guys are asking, hey, wait a minute, now again you're moving the conversation to other things that you had not promised us. My advice to Kenya Kwanza is that listen to their MPs, listen to what Kenyans are saying, because at the end of it all, whatever you're doing is for the needs of the Kenyans, not for your own needs.
Pretty much. Mr. Kigoli, I want you to jump in on that, and I want to start the same question from where I left it right here with Justina Wamae. Here's the thing, Mr. Kigoli, would have you maybe hoped that the president would have even spoken to Okiya Omtatah, the same man who challenged the housing fund in the previous government and made sure that it was voluntary, just fast, than before actually coming in with the same proposal again in his first finance bill 2023?
Well, I believe this housing fund levy should have gone the consultative way.
Yes.
Let's talk to stakeholders, not even Okiya Omtatah. Let's talk to stakeholders.
At least if you wanted to go through. At least if you wanted to go through. Yes, pretty much. Again, it will be good for me to go back to Mr. Kigoli again. Hopefully we have him back before we step out. Now, here's the thing, Justina, again, that I wanted to put across to you. If you look at their promise for the cost of living, that's exactly how they came in. And when I was speaking to you last time, at least for the very first time in this country, we are starting to look at the promises majority of the leaders who are coming on board are giving us, and majority of them are being put to task then to go back and say, have you delivered against the promises that you came up with? Now, if you look at the Daily Nation this morning, they're talking about how unga, sugar prices to go up again. In fact, they're saying that this, in the foreseeable future, they'll keep on rising up because majority of the promises that the government gave in, even in the importation of the duty-free GMO that was supposed to come into the country, the court stopped that. So there's already a deficit in that, and they never made a pronouncement on exactly what they're going to do around that. Now, one key area as well that I also seen prices shoot up is the cost of fuel in the country. That they're proposing to get it to 16%. And remember, petrol, currently as it is running on a subsidy. So if they remove that subsidy and add the 8% on top of the 8% right now, will be at 16%. That negates the entire conversation for lowering the cost of production in this country, the cost of living in this country, because we are an energy-driven economy. On that alone, should we say no to the Finance Bill 2023 and say, well, there are good proposals in it, but then if indeed you're going to talk about the cost of living, which was your promise, your key promise as a government when you came in, do not talk about increasing the cost of fuel in this country.
Probably they should. The issue of fuel in this country is something that is very, is very emotive. You are told Uhuru Kenyatta used to eat subsidies. But when you look at this government, I think they're being counterproductive. They are giving us this and then taking this out. So on the issue of fuel,
which is essentially what you gotta do, so to balance to balance your bill.
But it's coming out like it's counterproductive. How can you add the cost, the VAT on fuel, yet you know these hustlers that you went into power using, use the matatus, use, you know, the kerosene. I think they are forgetting the people who got them into power. So maybe they are very good proposals that they're trying to push that Kenyans are yet to understand. But on the issue of fuel and petroleum, the VAT on petroleum, I think they need to hold back on that. And again, the president was saying, we have our own fuel in Turkana. But because it's going to be a green energy agent and carbon credits, he doesn't want to explore that path. Then why not focus on even, you know, green energy? We have those chargeable cars, but again, they need to lower the cost of power. You see? Why is it that IPPs supply 30% of what we use and Kengen supplies 70% of what you use, but the IPPs earn more than Kengen because there's so much corruption going in there. The president also needs to come out and give us his stand in terms of the IPPs. Where are the other people who use our solar, our wind, our geothermal to produce power? They are using our resources, yet you're paying them more, and they're demanding now in dollars because the shilling is not doing well. So the president also needs to be seen to be fighting corruption, because those are the things that when he's seen like his projects are vendor driven, or he's covering up for a few people, or he's just pushing out a few people who are seen to be doing, you know, who are seen to be corrupt. But the bigger issues like power is something he's not focusing on, then it beats the purpose. So I think on the fuel, if we're not going to explore our own in Turkana, then let's go green, because that is something that he's pushing. But how are we going to go green if even those who are supplying us with power are benefiting? They are eating from our taxes. There's so much happening, and that is why I say the president is facing trust issues. Kenyans don't trust him. Maybe even some of them are saying, okay, well, these are good ideas, but where is the other money? Where is NHIF money? Account for the money you already have. Where are police not arresting people? Because they can't feed them. So this president should actually avoid the chest stamping and focus on convincing Kenyans that, you know what, these ideas will be beneficial to us. But as it's known, people say that he's going to benefit as a vendor. That's a tragedy.
Somebody asked this question, and maybe you can weigh in on it as well as we move towards the end of this conversation. That there's so much that they have proposed to Kenyans. Some of them are absurd, and those are the ones that Kenyans are talking about. Maybe their true intention was not to have them go through. And I'll mention some of those that the Kenyans have mentioned about. The 3% housing fund, they might not want that to go through. The 16% on petrol, they might not want that to go through because they know that Kenyans would talk about vehemently. But then there are others within this bill that they might want to go through and say, well, you've rejected this, but you've given us a leeway then to go on with this one. Do you believe that that's the intention of the president? If indeed, number one, he's not going to listen. Number two, even the same people challenged his previous government are telling him we're going to challenge this time around. He's already reading a split within his camp. That's why his diehards are even threatening the Kenya Kwanza allied members of parliament, telling them if you don't vote for it, then party disciplinary action. That's exactly what we're going to do. The true intention of this bill, so many changes that have been introduced. In fact, if you start counting, there's so many. And do you believe that the true intention is to have all of them go through, or present as many as you can, and as many as you can go through? By the end of the day, we shall win.
I think that we cannot be surprised by how William Ruto acts. Martha Karua one time told us that they had agreed on the constitution, and then William Ruto went out and said it was bad. So probably he's playing that, you know, betting an Ekelea bet. Because look at the issue of helicopter importers. 16% of VAT exemption. VAT on helicopters. There's also something proposed about public officers get tax-free benefit cars and houses if they declare that they're owned by the government. So, and then also the issue of reducing bank charges. So he wants his friends in the banking sector to make money. So probably an Ekelea bet. So he's saying, if you refuse these ones, at least these ones that you're not talking about are the points of importance. We don't know. We don't know.
I didn't say that. It's a question that we've seen majority of you ask because there's so many proposals that are shared within this finance bill. By the way, take a point. I know the public participation process is already done and dusted with. This week is going to be tabled in Parliament, and Thursday being that day. So it's just up to you, by the way. Just go back and read on these proposals so that you can see where the politics are and where the economy politics are then. Now, listen, clear this conversation like this. Thursday is the day. The Azimio coalition is saying, well, we're going to give you a roadmap for what we're going to do so that indeed this bill doesn't go through. Now, the government is saying it has to go through in entirety. We have to look at both scenarios. Number one, if this is challenged in court, that stops the president from implementing it. But then, what is the scenario that the Azimio coalition has to put in place just to make sure that at the national stage, as the national house, when they're going to vote through this bill, that indeed it fails from within the house, even when the majority whip is already telling us, even before I start, I already have 150.
Including from the Azimio side. Okay, probably all I can say is that whoever is voting for this bill, let them remember country first.
Yes.
And then the challenge I have to both Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, if you look at the history of Israel, there's this, the prime minister late was called Shimon Peres. He always urged us to use more of our imagination than memory. So they should stop telling us about Singapore has done it, whoever has done it. Let's be different, let's be imaginative. Even as Azimio, be imaginative in how you're going to deal with Kenya Kwanza. But at the end of it all, the citizen and the country first.
In this conversation, what do you think is going to win, Justin? Is it not the politics of the day? It is a conversation of numbers. In this country, it has always been a conversation of numbers. And by the end of the day, there's somebody who's telling you, I've got the numbers already. Are they just presenting a case of numbers? Or there's some reason therein that Kenyans are being told, well, this is exactly what you're going to get?
According, one time Moses Kuria said they used to exchange money behind the toilet. So probably the money is, the numbers are coming through the money that has been used. Money has been poured. But the end of it all, yes. I urge our MPs, do that which is right for Kenyans. Use your brain. Don't let anyone carry your brain for you. The citizens are really suffering. And this bill does not reflect the reality on the ground. So do that which is right for the citizens.
Somebody has asked me to ask you this question this morning, and I'm just going to clear this conversation like this. Thank you very much, Analyst, for watching this morning. I do also have Pete Star at the point. Thank you very much for watching as well. All right, so this is exactly what we're going to do. I'm just going to put this question that has come in from Babu as well. Thank you very much for watching. So this is a question that has come to you. Number one, the citizenry. And I asked you that question.
Yes.
That we can't get proper leaders because at the end of the day, what is presented to us by the parties is already a candidate that has gone through the process within the party. How can we change the situation if the ones that are getting presented are the ones that have gone through the process within the party?
Getting involved in party politics. Remember, our taxes are used as political parties' fund. So when you hear that your party is having grassroots elections, if you really care about this country, go the party of choice. I'm not going to tell you choose this party. No, the party that you love. Involve yourself in political parties discourse from the grassroots. However, stop entertaining the issue of people coming with money bags. That is what has killed us. Because even grassroots elections, people may not even vote for the guy with the idea. They'll vote for the guy with the money. So even us, we need to check ourselves in terms of our greed. Because the 50 shillings we ate last year is haunting us right now.
Pretty much. All right, Mr. Kigoli, I've got one more question for you. Mr. Kigoli, as fast as you can then, there's a question here that you have to respond to then. Well, do you believe that the court process is what is going to stop this bill from passing because the Kenya Kwanza government already feels and are confident with the numbers behind them?
Well, it's not just
pretty much. It's a pity this bill. Yes. All right. right. Such a pity that we couldn't just really have Mr. Kigoli then. I've got this one by Pete Star the Point. Thank you very much for watching. Could you ask Justine, does that mean that she is going to be an independent candidate should she decide to run for office? Because the ideology she represents is a personal ideology.
It depends. What's his name or what's her name?
Pete Star the Point.
Pete, it depends on whether you support me. If you feel that the ideology is making sense, join me in this conversation. Why not? I mean, remember even people who go for elective positions,
Yes.
they are Kenyans, they are born in Kenya.
Yeah.
I've also been born in Kenya. I didn't come with anyone here.
Yeah.
So why not? The opportunities are there, but I need his support and
Does
others.
it? Pretty much. All right, now you do know exactly what it is. Guess what? For us, we're going to have a conversation around this particular one all the way to the end. And the end starts Thursday then. We're going to see exactly what plan the Azimio coalition has to stopping the bill for going through. Raila Amolo Odinga says he was going to announce that plan this week. So we're still waiting for that plan to come out and we'll be reporting on it. And guess what? I'll call Justina back again once then they make the first debate on this one, because there's so many points I'll be taking down and noting which members of parliament essentially have a say on this one. Guess what? We'll not be the only ones who'll be watching. The president will be watching. He said we'll be watching to see which member of parliament votes against empowerment of youth in this country and growing the economy. The DP also said, well, all those members of parliament who vote against the finance bill 2023, your constituents are not going to get roads. He's even told the governors not to oppose it because this bill is going to get the government money that is supposed to go all the way to the county level. So which way is it going to be? This morning, we called it political ultimatums. Justine, thank you very much for creating time.
Thank you, Simba.
I do appreciate it. And we also thank Mr. Kigoli Edwin, who joined us online. Also, we did have a couple of technical difficulties with him, but guess what? He did make his proper submission on this particular subject as well. For all of those who've been watching us online, thank you very much. We'll meet you tomorrow again for another edition of The Morning Drift. Good morning and goodbye.